Welcome everyone, and I would like to introduce you to Björn. He's a CEO of Voiio. Hello Björn.
Hi Anna, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me here.
Welcome to our World Changes in Tech format. And why don't we get started? I was wondering, what does Voiio stand for something?
Voiio is a combination of you and I in an Italian way, which is combined always a we. And we want to create a we, better society, a better company culture, and a good relationship to our customers. And bottom line, that you can always do only as a we, as a team. And that's how the name came up. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Go ahead and tell us about what you guys exactly do and how did you come up with Voiio?
Yes, let me try to jump back in history a little bit. How did we came up with Voiio? I have been, before founding Voiio, I've been the CEO from another tech company in Hamburg. And working there, I remember back the times when some of my staff asked me, employees asked me if they can bring their children to work because school was closed or kindergarten was closed, and they were asking if the kids can spend time because they didn't know where to bring the kids. So childcare, holiday childcare was an issue. And yeah, I remember the situation when we had 4 kids sitting in our big office with 30 degrees outside, wonderful sun, and they were spending basically their summer vacation in our office. And that was the first situation when I really realized, okay, there's something wrong. I realized or recalled my personal memories, spending wonderful holidays in children camps, holiday camps, and thought, okay, why are these parents not using them? And bottom line, that was basically the moment when I realized holiday or childcare, specifically in the 85 days of holiday time for kids, is on the one hand side a great issue for the employer because he has to think about providing ways or to basically balance supporting the employees, and on the other hand side, more importantly, for the parents themselves, who in many cases don't really find a suitable holiday care for their kids. That was when the idea was born, and me and 2 co-founders who also worked back then, Kerstin and Holger at Event Inc., we decided to found Voiio. That was back in July 2018. So almost 2 years now from now. And we started it, Voiio, as a platform for exclusively corporate holiday childcare. Means, in other words, a solution for the problem of the 85 days of school-free time, form of a platform where employees from our partner companies can basically log in and find quality vetted, price reduced holiday care programs for their kids, also specifically suited to the needs of working parents. Means extended care times, mobility options, and so on. So and that's how we founded the company. And if you had asked me before Corona what we are doing, that had been my answer. If you ask me now, we have since then launched 2 more products in the area of childcare as a result of Corona, as you can imagine, because there was a point when we realized people are not really interested to think right now about where to send their kids in the holidays. And we thought, okay, what can we do well? What kind of resources do we have? And we basically launched 2 more services, which comprise now a whole portfolio of services all around the area of childcare. Concretely, a backup care solution, which where we basically connect or provide babysitters or vetted caregivers to companies or their employees, and where they go home to the parents and basically take care of the child physically. And the second one is our virtual events, which we started roughly 3-4 weeks ago as a response of the fact that all our holiday programs in the Easter time basically were canceled. And we were thinking, okay, still all the parents are sitting at home and yeah, you can imagine for everyone who has a child at home, you know, it's quite a crazy time. Those children don't have any social interaction. They all the families sit together the whole day. Parents and many times have to work, and we thought, okay, let's provide our virtual events line. Means kids could we're basically doing virtual programs with them, like doing something like little programming courses and so on. And yeah, we launched that 4 weeks ago, and since then basically also growing that vertical quite rapidly with great demand.
Oh, okay. So let's go back to 2018 when you guys first started proposing this with corporates, and you probably did a type of MVP. What were the first activities that you offered a child? Like what were the child's experience with the digital product, so we can envision better how that worked?
I mean, to clarify, the product itself, it's completely offline. It's holiday courses, yeah, for the kids. And the first courses we provided were basic courses like soccer camps, drawing camps, and so on for kids, just doing on a weekly basis. Kids were spending their time from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. And we were growing that portfolio of offerings basically with the demand, realizing that children these days are as individual as we are and have till now an offering of 2,000 different offers for kids, ranging from something in the area of tech programming, drone camps, up to clearly something like nature experiences with a worldwide WWF and WWF fund. And so I have a great portfolio and wide variety of services, which we basically have provide in a platform system. So parents log into the system with the credentials from their company, and from there they can basically search, select, and book the provider, the required care they need for their kids in the holiday time.
So that was the physical part before Corona, right?
Yeah.
That's where the big pivot basically came, is that you guys realized there was this big digital or like virtual need to provide kind of all your knowledge and experiences you've collected and then funnel into a virtual world. How difficult was that to envision? Like, what were your baby steps in order to figure out what could fit in a virtual world? Like, how could you translate some of these physical things into a virtual thing?
To be honest, I think you can't really transfer. I mean, the experience itself, I think at the bottom line, we're convinced that personal experience for a child in the nature or somewhere is definitely the better way to go than sitting for a PC. I think we all do that our whole lifetime. So we are convinced that childhood should, in most cases, enjoy the social and personal interaction and nothing in front of a screen. However, clearly we could the learnings we can transfer from typical holiday care to a virtual camps have been simply about the interests of children and what you could apply in front of a screen, and how you could also find, which was probably the most tricky part, finding a way of not just moderating something to the kids, because in other words, we were always thinking like, otherwise they can also watch a video tool or something, or a YouTube tool. So we had to find a good way between, on the one hand side, social interaction, and on the other hand side, also trying to get around the problem that there are 8 really young kids sitting in front of the camera and everyone wants to say something. And from that, and talking to some of our, let's say, core providers, best providers in our portfolio, and asking them what do they think is the best way, we came up with our virtual camps. However, the transferring knowledge from the offline experience to the online experience have been quite limited. We had to.
But could you give us some examples? Is it kind of like story time, or what it'd be? Could you give us an example of, for example, I sign up over my corporate to have my child spend, what is it usually like? Is it 2 hours? Is it 3 hours? Like, what are even the time slots? And
Yeah, I mean, from the user journey, it's simply you as a parent, as a working parent in one of our partner companies, you can log into our platform and you will find a wide variety of courses, ranging from courses from 4 to 14 years and ranging from, for the very young kids, more something like reading and drawing something while that, to, for the more older kids, something like coding courses and classes, up to for the older ones or the teens, something like journalism courses where they can basically produce their own video and do something like that. And also depending on the age, we also clearly set up the time frame for the program. Means for the younger kids, we usually plan for 1 hour, and the older ones we engage to up to 2 hours. So this is the range we are doing. Yeah.
And I mean, that must have been a very interesting experience, like a learning curve to figure out how do children even respond to a virtual, display or them trying to get them engaged. Are there some learnings you could share with us? I mean, was there something that was really difficult where you guys were like, damn, we thought it would work and it didn't?
Yeah, I mean, to underline, we are 4 weeks doing these camps or these virtual events. So still we're at the beginning of our learning curve, but for sure the first, let's say, batch we launched has been, we definitely learned that you have to plan 15 minutes in advance to plan all the tech setup. As we just did, Anna, in advance, we were meeting here at Zoom 10 minutes beforehand just to ensure that camera and microphone is working. And we do that in our camps as well, because the first courses we launched, we always planned like, 90 minutes, starting straight with logging in the kids. But in many cases, you have to realize, I mean, we already all experience that probably on a daily basis. Sorry, I have to move my phone because my display is so. Okay. And that way we realized we wanted to start with the kids, but half of them were not able to log in or to unmute the microphone or so ever. So this was definitely the greatest learning we had to make. And beyond that, we also learned that it doesn't have to be so sophisticated. Doesn't mean that we don't need, that we don't take care for quality. All our camp providers are people who have experience working with kids and who are in many cases, depending on the program, also have experience in the field they're providing the course in. However, we learned that in many cases, the children are just happy to finally meet a different group of kids and doing something differently than they have done the last weeks sitting in home office with their kid, with their family. And so they are really, the kids are really grateful. The parents have been really grateful. And as your question was at the beginning, we thought, okay, we have to provide, everything has to be thought well through. And with that, we just learned, okay, technology has to work, but as long as the infrastructure is given, you can interact. And as we are doing it, basically just, just rocket science. Rocket science, not just, we're just doing it freestyle.
Freestyle. So the kids can see each other. So they're also, that means it's not like a one person telling the child maybe to this and that, but there's also like a group dynamic because you have other children that are also coming in.
Yeah, that was one of our main objectives, because we said, okay, what's the result right now of all the kids sitting in a home office? They don't have really social interaction. Some of them clearly also do Skype and so on, but however, the social interaction right now suffers quite a lot. And that's, I think, for especially for children, something, I mean, we all experience that probably, but I think for children, this is something really dramatic. And with setting up the courses, we had 3 objectives in mind: having fun, learning experience, and last but definitely not least, probably the most important, social interaction. So the kids really have the chance to meet new kids from somewhere else, probably a district farther down in the city, and try to put that into a good program.
Do you know by chance, I mean, I know the age groups are probably different, but what's been the most popular activity? Is there something that pops out that you realize, or you guys realize that this is something that they just continuously want more of?
Yeah, that's a funny part about it. At the beginning, we thought about super sophisticated courses like design courses with Asana for children and so on. And we learned that especially the courses which are, as I said, more freestyle, like reading a story with the kids and telling them, okay, I just was reading out chapter number 1. Let's all draw a picture to that and so on. Like not very, very highly structured programs, but more just a simple idea of having someone who spends time with you and other kids in your group and doing something with purpose, which goes beyond maybe sitting in front of the TV or something. And that's what I meant with freestyle. We found out as more sophisticated our products have been, as least they have been demanded.
Okay. And what's the feedback been from the parents?
The feedback is very good. The feedback is very, very grateful. I think to understand is also all our courses are completely free. We offer them to all our platform customers for free. Mm-hmm. So they can really use them on a daily basis without concerning about budget or paying for that, because the company supports them in that regard. And they're really, really happy because they always, what we hear, it's like something, a highlight for the day. The kid is looking forward. And that's I think one of the great aspects that parents really appreciate, because to be honest, I mean, it's just, for instance, 1 or 2 hours care time. So this is definitely not giving you like setting the kid in front of the PC and it will return at the evening when I have responded all my emails. I think we have to accept the fact that, or we never actually had that in mind, to have a daycare for the kids in front of the screen. I think that's definitely nothing which makes sense from pedagogic side, and it's also nothing that the parents and the market demands. But the parents are really, really happy to have, every day there's a highlight, and Laura or Tommy saying like, oh, at 10 o'clock the course starts with that and that. And that's something they really appreciate. They really say they help. We ask them after every course they're taking how the experience was, and rating from 1 to 10, and if they can imagine to do something like that even after Corona. And I think 100% respond yes, even after Corona and home office and social shutdown times. I can imagine to use that format again, firstly, and secondly, our NPS score is like 9.4, so it's like super high. And yeah, it's really good. It's really nice to see there's something growing with impact. Giving all those families and especially the kids, a smile in the day.
Well, I was going to say, I know from experience, trust me, an hour is worth of gold, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of parents maybe in the watching right now or listening in, they can attest that you can do a lot within an hour, right? That helps keep your sanity. For anyone that would want to participate as a private individual, what would be the answer if they wanted to enroll their child in a Voiio program?
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Unfortunately not. It would be probably the same answer as you would get from GymPass or somewheres. We are happy to support you, pushing the thing through at your employer, but we wouldn't, it's a pure B2B platform, unfortunately. Yeah.
But so here's a sales point. So that means the parent would have to approach their employer, and the employer would get themselves in your program. Is that correct?
That would work. That's true, and that's the way how it would work. Like with GymPass, you can basically ask your employer to introduce that, and we experienced that quite a bit, because for certain keywords for Google we are ranking quite high, and we get lots of parents asking us, "Can I get access to your platform?" And unfortunately, it has some strategic ideas behind it. We always have to say, we are sorry, we can't, but you can always forward it to your employer. And we are working hard together with the parents that we open it up then, convincing the employer that it's worth the investment. Yeah.
Okay. And I wanted to, because we talked about this a little bit before when we were on the phone together, I find it's good to talk about it in terms of like screen time. For example, in the US, I think the average American is watching like 8 hours of TV a day. there's different, views to how, how much screen time you should have or not. How did you guys approach that when you, did the Voiio products?
I mean, we are still talking, if we talk about Voiio products, probably about the virtual events.
Yeah.
And I mean, we are convinced, firsthand, screen time is part of our life these days. And I think there's good and there's bad screen time. Yeah? I think the screen time where you are sitting on your smartphone the whole time, nervously changing from Instagram to WhatsApp and so on, that's definitely proven that's not good for us. I think, and that's maybe a chance from this Corona crisis and from services and tech popping up there. I think screen time can also be quality time, and that was one of the approaches we had. We said like, okay, it has to be quality time because it needs to be fun, because we don't want to be, the kids are already doing lots of homeschooling these days. So it should be a highlight for them. They should have fun on it, but it should also not be, I think, playing PlayStation is also fun for a 9 or 10-year-old, but that's probably not the good screen time you should have a lot of. So anyways, I think I think screen time is not necessarily bad. There's good and bad screen time. However, we are convinced that the physical experiences and physical experience you make in true life and not in front of a screen are still something really, really valuable. And we would never aim to substitute screen time with real life experience of a child, which I think are moments you cannot subsidize.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was interesting you said from the age groups of like 4 to 14, with the younger ones, you said it's like an hour probably. And then the older they are, the more meticulous maybe some of the things are that they can do. And so it's maybe 2 or 3 hours, maybe max for a 14-year-old programming or.
That's definitely max. Most of them are 2 hours. We have consecutive courses, means a course which starts in the morning and progresses in the afternoon. However, you could, even though you missed maybe the course in the morning, you could join the one in the afternoon. However, you could also, it's like still there's a storyline going through, and that's also what we see, that they join for an hour in the morning and join another hour in the afternoon. And same with the older ones. However, mentioning that, courses for the older ones are definitely less demanded than courses
right.
for kids. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And now a very interesting point I also wanted us to talk about is SDG 5 gender equality, is basically how you guys are able to, what do you call it, iron out the creases in gender equality. Maybe you can go into that. Like, why would, digital child care or Voiio be able to balance that out more equally?
How it supports it, you mean?
How it supports it, yeah. Because I think sometimes we don't always think about this, but you told me about, because I don't want to say what you told me, but
I think, I mean, maybe just take a step back now from the virtual camps, more to the childcare aspect in general. I think childcare is always very, very closely related to gender equality, for sure. And I think as better the services around childcare, and also going in hand with the topic of today, as better the technology, as better the gender equality can become, I'm sure for that. So I think it's very, very closely related, because as better the support system around childcare, and as better women are supported to balance work and family, as better we're supporting that. And that's definitely one of the reasons why we are, one of our main people to talk to in organizations are diversity responsible people or gender equality responsibles. And so definitely it has a great impact on that. But I think that's also the reason why I took the step back from the virtual events.
Right.
That's
it's a general thing. Yeah.
That's a very general thing, and that's a great societal task, but it's definitely great.
Right, because even as progressive as we think we might be in Germany or Europe, I think we can say that a lot of childcare is with the mother, and therefore we're giving mom a little bit more play field, but even dads, right? So it's like both sides. And what you said earlier, you said a lot of corporates were approaching you guys because at the higher management level, they're also feeling it, like they're with Corona.
Yeah, with Corona, we feel that, especially with the virtual events, that's something that goes from top of the hierarchy to down to the bottom. Yeah, and unfortunately, yeah, as higher you go in the hierarchy, as more you go into top management, as higher is a share of males. Or yeah. So, however, in this specific case, I think it's not about mother or father. We all suffer from these problems right now. However, when we observe our service of holiday care, we definitely see a tendency that it's more pushed by the women. For instance, I think I mentioned that one of our greatest share of customers comes from the area of hospitals. And why that? Unfortunately, bottom line, if it comes to childcare, but it always still goes back to the woman. And that's the reason why we are so successful in that market segment, because it's always like, oh, you do that? That's awesome. We have so many women. And that's definitely a fact. However, right now we see that shifting a little bit in everyone. Yeah.
Which is great. So we can, you could sense that's a sign that times are changing. So that's wonderful. At this point, Björn, I would like to also open up the floor to anyone that might have a question. They can write that in right now. And while I ask Björn maybe the last question for our great talk today, where do you guys, now that you had to do this, you guys are relatively young and you had this, pivot with Corona and you kind of like, I don't know, I wouldn't say accidentally. Maybe you had it in your plan already to do some virtual offerings, but now you have these intense 4 weeks. How has that shifted maybe where you'd like to be in 2 years? Where do you guys see yourself in 2 years?
So, yeah, maybe, you said it earlier, maybe this crisis has changed some things to the good in terms of equality, gender equality. I think this crisis, as dramatic it is, and we all hope that it doesn't come to bad for all of us, and that at some point we will get in control of it. In general, I think it also has speed up many developments we have and evolvements we have anyways gone through, and which always has been on the agenda of our social agenda, yeah, saying something like gender equality, but also the whole use of video conferencing tools. I think we will see quite good effects for our society also. People maybe realize I don't have to fly for a business meeting to Barcelona. I can also do it via web conference. And why I'm saying that, because it's basically the same for us with Voiio. We always had these plans in mind to basically extend our offerings in the area of childcare, in the area of family support. And Corona has basically speeded up that process and given us the vision, or basically gave us the time to feel our vision even more and to really think it through strategically. And where do we want to be? To answer your question to the point, where do we want to be in 2 years? I think our vision is to really, and in 2 years, our objective should be that the well-being of the family becomes to an even greater point of or success factor for a company. We see our objective and our purpose should be, as Voiio, should be to open up the eyes from companies that family-friendly culture, which supports a happy family, can be a crucial success factor in the market, because and that's basically a little bit given our purpose. You would probably agree, when you and family is, I think, a very broadening meaning. If you have a great day and start out, with a good breakfast with your family, and you're not fighting, and you don't have like a crazy time frame in mind, and you go with that feeling to work, you will work much more productive also. And I think there's a direct economically return of invest if a company supports families. And that's our objective from here, that much more companies also in the SME sector have realized the importance of investing in a family-friendly company culture and providing an innovative infrastructure.
I think that's a great way to end our talk with the statement of the future should be investing more in family-friendly structures. And I think if you're a parent or a company and also want to take this path, then you guys should definitely get a hold of Björn at Voiio. We will make sure to have all our links provided to you in the next email, as well as whatever format you guys see us in right now. So with that, Björn, I would like to say thank you very much for being part of our World Changer in Tech talk. And we hope to catch up with you again soon.
Thanks. Thank you very much. And it was very nice. Great talk. Thank you.
Danke. Take care, everyone. Tschüss.
Bye.